Hey everybody, Thaddeus from Primal Hacker, and today I am teaching you about biohacking. Specifically today we're going to talk about sunlight, the benefits of sunlight, and why covering your body up to hide from the sunlight is probably not a good idea. So the first thing that you want to know is sunlight comes in really three flavors of ultraviolet light. And ultraviolet light is kind of the thing that most people get uncomfortable with because that is what causes melanoma and skin cancers and all sorts of things. I actually don't think that's accurate based on all the studies. So if you review all the studies of sunlight and cancer, what you find is people that are exposed to the most sunlight have the least amount of cancer compared to those people exposed to the least amount of sunlight. And that's all types of cancers. Now, some people exposed to sunlight may be, especially if you burn and you stay out in the sun for a really long time, might be exposed to more of the skin type cancers, specific type of skin type cancer, which is largely like way above the 99 percentile survivable, where you're reducing your risk of all other cancers that are not as survivable. So out in the sunlight, actually look at the studies. There are at least 3 of them that have been done now. The more sunlight, the less cause of death from all causes known to man. More sunlight. So sunlight apparently has some protective benefits, and a lot of it comes from what we know as ultraviolet. I wouldn't say all of it comes from that. A lot of it does. That's what we've studied. I think there's way more to sunlight than what we've studied, and we still haven't even scratched the surface. But we know about ultraviolet, and it comes in 3 flavors: ultraviolet A, ultraviolet B, and ultraviolet C. Those are the 3 flavors of ultraviolet light that you get when you're out here in the sun. And specifically, we'll start with ultraviolet A. That's the one that gives you the tan. That's what creates the melanin to come to the surface of your skin and get darker. It can sunburn you, of course. And it has many health benefits. This is what most people miss, are the health benefits of the sun. So ultraviolet A, that can produce nitric oxide. It can release nitric oxide from your cells, which reduces blood pressure. So anyone have high blood pressure that you know? Sunlight can reduce that just from the ultraviolet A. And ultraviolet A has other benefits where in the morning when your skin is exposed, so we're gonna have to change things up here. I'm gonna have to expose some more skin. Okay, that's better. So when you expose your skin to the sunlight in the morning, that's when the ultraviolet A can it provides information and programs information into amino acids like tyrosine and tryptophan. And what do tyrosine and tryptophan become later in the day? Well, tryptophan turns to serotonin, which is that brain chemical that lots of people are taking anti-anxiety and antidepressants to retain more serotonin in their brain, which comes from tryptophan, and then eventually later in the evening is reprogrammed into melatonin. But if you're not out in the sunlight, your cells, your hormones don't actually know what time of year, what time of day it is, and we're supposed to be synced to this clock, which is the main clock, which is the sun, the light and dark cycles of the earth that we live on. So the ultraviolet A can program those hormones. It can give them critical information that they need to keep all of us healthy, assuming that you're exposing some skin and you are out in the sunlight. That is the key. So then we get ultraviolet B. Ultraviolet B is what creates vitamin D. It actually uses sulfated cholesterol in the skin. It hits that in the vitamin D receptors, and it converts that eventually in the body into vitamin D. That's how we create vitamin D, and we create that from the sun, from ultraviolet B light. So UVB, super important, creates vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is a fat-soluble hormone. People call it a vitamin. It's not a vitamin, so don't take it in pill form. Don't take it as a supplement. It's not a supplement. It's not a vitamin. It is a hormone that your body produces. If you know about hormone replacement therapy, you know how careful you have to be to get optimal levels of the hormones and what happens when you get too much or the wrong forms. Vitamin D pills capsules, whatever, are not the way to take vitamin D. You want to get it from the sun. There's many reasons to get vitamin D from the sun. Number one, it's a fat-soluble hormone, so it will store. So the vitamin D that I'm creating and storing in my body right now will last me throughout the entire winter. Usually most supplements, vitamin D, they call them supplements, don't take them, but 400 IUs is the dosage that's in there. And you could probably take 10 of those and get some toxicity because they're fat soluble and your body kind of rejects that after a while. But from the sun, so that's 400 IUs in that little capsule. In a few minutes to maybe about 2 hours in the sun, I might be able to generate 25,000 to 50,000 IUs that I can store, and that's natural. You're not going to get that from a supplement. The other thing, the big benefit, is once you create enough vitamin D in your skin cells, you're then going to create 2 additional anti-tumor compounds in your skin that you'll never get from the vitamin D supplement. So you're getting the safest, most effective hormone from the sun, from UVB, assuming you expose about 70% of your body to the sun. And that's the key. So 70% of the body has to be exposed to the sun. It has to be at the right time of year for the latitude that you live in and the right time of day. So there's no ultraviolet of any kind, A, B, or C, in the morning at sunrise, nor at sunset. That's why you can, if you were a breatharian or a sun gazer, that's why you could stare at the sun in the morning time or at sunset with no ill effects. I don't recommend that anybody does that. Personally, I do that, but I will never recommend anyone else. You look about 15 degrees off the sun, so it's not directly into your eye at sunrise or sunset, only within the, a half hour of sunrise or sunset. You can do that safely. I do that safely. I've been doing it for years. I don't wear glasses. My eyes are just fine. I've never burned them out. And I will let you do your own research and make your own decisions. Don't look at the sun. But I do. Okay, so ultraviolet B, very important for health. And it's the key ingredient that we're missing, at least one of the key ingredients we miss in the winter when we bring ourselves indoors. So when we're indoors in the winter, we've got all our clothes on. In a northern climate, when it snows, there's no ultraviolet B in the atmosphere anyway, in our climate, especially in anything kind of north of, I would say, we start getting north of Georgia, North Carolina, there's going to be no UVB in the winter, no matter how naked you are in the sun. So that's a problem. And you're using your stored vitamin D, or you start taking capsules, which have been shown not to work in most studies. And, we're kind of learning more about why they may not work. And so what you can do is you can supplement with UVB tanning light. You have to be very, very careful with supplementing sunlight, especially with artificial lights. And those tanning lights, they can be effective. You can get vitamin D from them. And so do some research on those. If you live in a climate where you can't get UVB or vitamin D in the winter, you still want to have some being put into your body, but not from a pill form. So ultraviolet B, at least we know it creates vitamin D in the skin. It does probably more than that. And we're only, again, at the cusp of finding out all the wonderful things that the sun, that nature does for our body. Then there's UVC. And so they say there's no UVC that can get in our atmosphere from the sun. And there's many reasons for that. One being the ozone layer kind of stops that from getting to us, the UVC. And the UVC is supposedly deadly for all human and all life on the planet. And that's why they use UVC in pharmaceutical sanitizers and sterilizers to sterilize the water that they put into the injectables and the capsules and the drinkables. So if you are at a pharmaceutical plant and you're using water to make Pepto-Bismol or Dayquil or NyQuil, they're actually going to run that through an ultraviolet sterilizer so that they can sterilize that water. That's part of the process they're going to use to make sure that it's pure sterilized water that goes into those containers before they ship it off to you. So it supposedly kills all life. Yet we have receptors for those, not on the outside of our skin, but on the inside of our bodies for UVC, which is interesting. More on that maybe in a future video, why those might be there and what they're actually doing. So UVC may or may not have ever been present in our atmosphere for humans to absorb. but right now it isn't present. You can only get it through kind of manufactured, man-made devices that are used to sanitize things, especially with what's going on in the world in 2020. They've got lots of those devices that people are purchasing for their homes and for their offices so that they can sanitize everything, which I think is probably the wrong idea, because your body needs to be exposed to these things to upgrade your DNA with these RNA particles that are out there. Very important to continue life on this planet, to take the upgrade of what's being presented to us, and well, not everybody makes it through. So the best thing you can do is upgrade and optimize your immune system, and that's what's happening up here with the sun. Is you are optimizing, upgrading, harmonizing your immune system with nature, and being part of this planet, being part of the light and the dark cycles that are present everywhere. This is how you do it. You don't do it by hiding from the sun. Now, you do have to practice safe sun exposure. So we went through UVA, UVB, UVC. And to be safe, you want to get some of those two frequencies that are beneficial to humans. So that's A and B. And you can't do that at sunrise or sunset. So syncing your circadian rhythm is really critical. You do that, and we're going to talk a whole separate video on how to do that and how to practice safe sun exposure. But be safe. You want to get out at dawn. You want to get some of that sun in your eyes, preferably some on your body as well. Then you want to get out at noon, and that's when you're going to get your UVA and your UVB, and you do that for a certain amount of time. Depends on your latitude, the time of year, depends on your skin type, depends on how much of a solar callus you've already built up on your body, because you want to get vitamin D, and that's the way to get it, and that's the most natural way to get it. And then you want to get out, if possible, at sunset. And so now you're absorbing all the frequencies of the sunlight. You are syncing your eye. We have receptors in our eye and in our skin that read the sunlight, the time of year, the ultraviolet, the blue light. Those are what our body, our eyes, and our mind is reading to create optimal hormones to sync us to nature and the light and dark cycles that are present in our environment at any given time. When we do that, let's see if I can get some good light here. When we sync ourselves to the light and dark cycles, we optimize and we sync our circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is what the Nobel Prize in Medicine was given for in 2017 because of its extreme importance to human health. If you're not outdoors, sunrise, and at least some point during the day, you're completely missing out on syncing your circadian rhythm. In fact, you're syncing it to these artificial, fake lights, junk lights that we put in our homes that were designed for efficiency, and I kind of think they were designed to harm us because you couldn't have come up with a worse design. There's no infrared, there's no ultraviolet. There is very few frequencies in there, but high spikes of blue. We're going to talk about that in another video on how dangerous those really are for us. They're made for efficiency and they're made to save you money, but they're not designed with health in mind, and that's a key. So if you sync yourselves to those man-made junk lights, you're completely trashing your circadian rhythm. You're de-optimizing your entire chain of hormones. You're messing with your sleep. You're creating more anxiety. You're creating more depression and just completely unsyncing everything. When you start looking at that on a screen, the same lights that are overhead are now in your screens. It's even worse. So get outside, sync your hormones. So your hormones are going to be programmed. This is invisible information that we wirelessly connect to through nature. And that information, remember, invisible information is everywhere, and we can only decode what our brain and our body allow us to decode. So you're not looking at empty space back here. There's tons of stuff back here. You can only see a little bit in the visible spectrum, but if you were to see an infrared, an ultraviolet, and all the other spectrums of electromagnetic frequencies, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, those are like gigahertz frequencies, you would see a lot of stuff back here. So there's all this information floating around. There's people's emails flying by me. There's phone calls flying through here, flowing through the air on those cell phone signals that are modulated all around us. All that information is just waiting to be decoded. Your body, your eye, and your skin are already decoding a ton of this information from the sun. When we give it EMF signals from microwaves and from junk lighting, it's decoding the wrong information and totally messing you up. But when you decode the right information from the sun, because you're exposing skin and you're outdoors, then your body starts to sync the way it was biologically designed to sync to the cycles of this earth, and creates optimum immunity and health for you, optimum hormone cascades. So what you need to do is watch one of our videos on appropriate sun exposure, safe sun exposure, how to get sun exposure for optimal health, and start syncing yourself to that environment by getting the right wavelengths of light and optimizing your circadian rhythm. It's super, super critical for every primal hacker to understand this. All right, until next time.